I will. Well, Jack, talk about my mom and dad, where they grew up and what they did. And
okay. Your mother was she was my queen. She was everything. She got me out of more beatings, more yelled at, or anything else. She was everything to me. And if I wanted ice cream, I'm going to tell you this before I get about your father. I always knew the Aders had ice cream. We never had ice cream in our house. My mother said, no, we don't have the money. And that would be the end of this conversation. So I'd figure, I'll go see my Aunt Seal. 2 blocks away, I'd go up there. My Aunt Seal had ice cream. And my Aunt Seal, I got to tell you another story. I graduated in 1948 from high school. I didn't have a driver's license, and your mother had a car. It was a '39 Buick, big thing. Bob took me downtown, I drove around, and that was my student drivers. I didn't have a driver's license. Your mother didn't have license on the car. She knew a person that worked in the currency exchange. They gave her a sticker that she applied for it. I drove the car with 2 other couples to the prom. My mother nearly, she was beside herself. And your mother was the older sister, so my mother was quiet. So I drove, and everything worked out good. But now your father, I'm going to tell you again that if you take a picture of your brother Jimmy, and we used to call him Butch, by the way. That's what Jimmy's nickname was, Butch. But he didn't like that at the end, so we called him Jimmy. But look just like your father. Your father was a big kid. One thing you have to remember, we're going back in years now. This is into the 30s. Your father graduated from high school and was at least had a couple of years and possibly graduated from college. So he was ahead of the whole family as far as education went. My mother ended up being, a big-time executive for Spiegel's. She never graduated from 8th grade. I don't believe that your mother went to more than 1 or 2 years of high school. Mm-hmm. So but your father was well-educated and good-looking, big, strong. And I want to tell you something else. My Aunt Seal loved Uncle Frank more than anything in the world. Mm. I want you always to remember that. She loved your grandfather. Anything else?
I want to ask you about my mom, what she was like growing up, and did she go to dances? And
no, well, first off, I didn't know your grandmother, my Aunt Seal, because she was my aunt. She was my mother's older sister. She was 5 years older than my mother, so she was, Mm-hmm. The only thing I can tell you, when your father passed away, your mother went out and found a job immediately. There was she was gone. And she worked and worked and worked. And so we were, like I said before, we were raised by women. Yeah. And none of us turned out, we didn't do any time in jails, none of us.
Yeah. And I remember Mom had a nickname of Bubbles because she loved to dance. I remember that. We actually have a picture somewhere of her with the nickname Bubbles on the back of it.
If there was anybody that would be watching, your mother would perform as a comedian, as an artist, anything. She was funny. She was just a comic.